And once again, I want to say greetings to each and every one of you, Aquaba. Welcome. Welcome to another round of the Conscious Roster Report here on Sundays, here on LIB Radio. We call this the Mastermind, where we get together a group and we look at what is happening in the news, behind the news, culture, consciousness, historical perspectives, entertainment, economics, education, health, labor, law, politics, religion, family, conflict, future studies, all areas of human interactivity and development. Today's date is Sunday, the 21st day of September, the last day of summer. This is the year 2025 in the Western Gregorian calendar. This corresponds to the year 6265 in the calendar of ancient Kemet, to which we have realigned our cultural clock. Welcome to the seventh millennium. You have found your family in a peaceful place here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, here on livinginblack.com. That's right. And let me welcome and add to the stage. I'll turn his microphone on here. We have Brother Duara is in the house, Aquaba, and welcome to you today, Brother Duara. I hope you are in good spirits today.
Oh, I'm definitely in good spirits, Baba. We need to keep this this positive Maatian thought process in effect. So glad to be here with you.
It is absolutely an honor and a pleasure to be with you, my dear brother. It's always a pleasure. And we should be expecting Baba Junius to be joining us any second now. Today is the last day of summer. And I do believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you do engage in the seasonal detox, my brother?
I do when I can, and I look forward to doing it on this equinox. Between these two very beautiful seasons, it's a wonderful time to just get in preparation for winter, especially here in the Northeast, and to let go some of the toxins that were picked up over the warmer months.
Yeah, and this is something that most of us really don't even give much consideration to, but you are right. Over the warm summer months, we are apt, let's say, to pick up a whole bunch of toxins that we're not even aware of, especially heavy metal toxins from the food, from the air, from the exposure to so many things. And I contend that as the years pass by and more toxic elements are added to the matrix, the need for us to engage in detoxification becomes even more critical. Your thoughts, and then we're going to welcome in Baba Junius.
Absolutely, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, even if we just take this notion of the chemical lotions, the chemicals in the soap, these things that hit the skin that we rub all over our bodies, and the skin is very susceptible to instant absorption from those chemicals. And I forget what the term was, but I believe medically or scientifically, the skin is understood as something like the first digestive system or something like that.
Right. Well, the intergumentary system, which is what the skin, hair, and everything external is all about, is the largest organ of the human body. So that is a fact. Welcome in, as a fact, Baba Junius Aquaba. Welcome to the program today. I hope you are in divine spirits.
Madasi, yes, I am, and I'm here and ready to go. With the caveat, I have to leave early. There's a gentleman that I know is celebrating his 100th natal day today, so you have to really participate in that.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, the whole family, whole community should be celebrating that as well. We were just talking about today is the last day of summer 2025 in the Gregorian calendar, and tomorrow is the beginning of the autumn equinox. Let me ask you, Baba Junius, have you developed the habit of seasonal detox?
No, not really.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, let's go to the news then, and let's see what is going on in the news. The big news of the day is, of course, a massive memorial service for the late Charlie Kirk, the conservative voice, let's say, who was assassinated on September 11th of this year. Or it might have been September 10th. I think it was September 11th.
September 10th, I believe.
September 10th. Thank you for the correction. Anybody want to share your thoughts on what Charlie Kirk's memorial stands for?
Well, I think it's at its core, it's a rallying cry for the conservatives.
Mm.
They have literally overnight made him into a martyr, into a saint. They are attributing him to almost Christ-like attributes. He's supposed to have been so open-minded, so caring, loving, and supportive of free thinking and open debate. And he was basically focused on the young people, high school and higher ed folks, as he promoted free market capitalism and free speech, et cetera, et cetera. But he's also, in my view, when you juxtapose that with what else is going on in terms of the ICE raids with mass agents and Trump putting armed National Guards people on the streets in cities that are run by black folks, it is setting the stage almost for like a Hitler-esque type of mindset, a consciousness to come in this country. And you can see it in the animus between the left and the right. So it's further exacerbating that whole partisan divide. So there's a lot of stuff going on that is more than just them celebrating the life of this young man.
Mm-hmm. Dwara, would you like to share your thoughts on this topic?
Sure. As I said, I believe last week, it's kind of twofold. On the one hand, Charlie Kirk seemed to advocate for morality, for family values, for decency and modesty, things that traditionally our ancestors always advocated for as well. But then on the other hand, you had this kind of this race baiting, this us versus them. I think, you know, a lot of that is tied into this this xenophobic kind of Uruguayan concern of genetic annihilation. You know, there was some of that I heard in some of his speeches as well. Where I think it gets complex nowadays, and especially in this society, is you can have someone that practices an African traditional religion and yet is vehemently for abortion. You can have someone like a Charlie Kirk who stands for decency and morality and yet seems to have a huge bone to pick with Africa and African people. And I guess I realized his stance on Israel was kind of shifting towards you know, the latter part of his life. And so what strikes me as interesting is this kind of this jambalaya, this hodgepodge of different political beliefs nowadays. The line is very blurred now. Like I said, you can have someone that adopts many conservative views, but also has some very, very ultra liberal views. And I think in the past, it was a much more clear-cut, direct kind of line. And that concerns me because now it's very hard, I think, to find solidarity. And you could have everything in common with somebody nowadays, right? And I'm speaking about our people specifically. But if there's one issue that you disagree on, that seems to burn the bridge for us now. And we can't get past maybe just one issue, be it transgender or LGBT or LGBT or abortion is another big one where there seems to be a lot of clash. So I'm just noticing that and trying to think deeper about that.
Awesome, awesome. I agree with both of your points. And I'm going to latch on to something that you said, Brother Dwara, that Charlie Kirk had been changing his position on the Zionist state. I have a piece of video queued up. It's not too long, but I want you to listen carefully, and then I want to hear your commentary on this video, which I am going to call this video, Thou Doth Protest Too Much. 1 second. Here is Benjamin Netanyahu speaking on the death of Charlie Kirk.
That Israel had something to do with Charlie Kirk's horrific murder. This is insane. It is false. It is outrageous.
Why do you think Netanyahu felt the need to go on national television and expressly deny that Israel assassinated Kirk? I mean, who does that?
Israel is behind the Charlie Kirk murder, and I don't believe it for 1 second. But I want you to make a statement. It's so absurd.
That's insane. That's insane. I think it's so absurd, so stupid, and so ridiculous. You can't believe that people are saying that.
Can you remember any time in the history of a political assassination that the leader of a foreign government has come out to deny that they were behind it? I mean,
I've never seen anything like that.
Okay, I'm going to pause the video right now. And who would like to comment on it first?
Well, I think what you're seeing, if you had expanded the montage or the collage, you would have seen Netanyahu on many legacy media platforms saying the very same.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime you see that, you should ask, the yellow light should go on. You say, well, wait a minute, what's the connection here? Why is this man injecting himself into a domestic situation where someone was killed? And the other thing is, you have the people there's a select group of people on the right who are pushing that narrative, pushing that meme. And my philosophy, my thought on it is a way for them, meaning the Zionists, not only to try to cover their tracks, but also use this to divide the right, to form a wedge between the right that Charlie Kirk was aligned with, which was the Christian nationalists and the Christianity group, versus the far extreme right, the ultra right, with the total anti-Zionist, it's almost the fascist KKK type thing. So it's very deep, and it remains to be seen how this is going to play out, because Charlie Kirk was very influential with young people. Now, the key thing is he was funded by millionaires and billionaires on the right, the Koch brothers and some other people, and they give him all credit, but he was really the co-founder of the group with this 71-year-old guy who took him under his wing, and he just became the face of that movement. It was aimed at younger Americans, younger white Americans, and blacks, by the way, who he wanted to brainwash into coming across on the side to get away from what he called victimhood.
Brother Dwara, did you want to comment on Benjamin Netanyahu protesting that people were increasingly accusing Israel of being behind his murder?
Yeah, I agree with you. Doth protest too much. It's also strange to me that in Tel Aviv, I believe it was, they unveiled a huge Charlie Kirk mural that they had like sponsored and painted, and it's a little strange if you ask me. And I'm not sure exactly when that was done. I'm pretty sure it was after his assassination. I have a little bit of a different take on it. My personal thoughts, I guess, are that I think this might be a desperate attempt on the part of the left to deflect from the transgender LGBT reality, it seems, of this situation, and to further their kind of they typically tend to side with Palestine, which I do too, to be completely honest. And yet I'm wondering if that kind of hits two birds with one stone. One, it pulls away from that LGBT phenomenon that we're seeing with a lot of these mass shooters and active shooters being or identifying as trans or being connected to that, and also still is able to demonize Netanyahu just by the mere fact of bringing up that he had something to do with it. So that is something that I'm looking deeper into. But it does, personally, in my opinion, again, seem like kind of a desperate attempt for the left to try to pull this away and deflect from the whole transgender thing. Because if we remember, originally, a lot of these liberal news media outlets and spokespeople were saying that it was Charlie Kirk's assassin was a MAGA guy, was a Republican, was a conservative, and that was premature, because the reality, apparently, allegedly, now the reality is that no, that he was very anti-fascist leaning and very pro-transgender, as per his lover / roommate.
Mm-hmm. Tomorrow, I believe tomorrow, I'll have it all completed. I'm going to dedicate a whole program to exposing Charlie Kirk's assassination. I think we do have sufficient evidence right now, and there was an excellent article that appeared in the Gray Zone this past week, which goes into it. And I'm going to pull that article up. I have that on my page. Now bear with me, I have too many pages open. I'm trying to keep as many of these closed as possible. The article
I'm sorry.
The article
I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. No,
I'm listening.
I was just going to ask, is that with Max Blumenthal? But yes, I do see his name on that.
There you go. Max Blumenthal's name is in this article. This is the Gray Zone. They've done a couple of articles that go deep into this, and a meeting that recently took place where, what was his name? It was a prominent, I'll have the name in a second, a very prominent Jewish, what could I call him? A Jewish AIPAC activist in this country had called a quote unquote intervention. His name is Bill Ackerman. Had called an intervention. And they called Charlie Kirk to the meeting, the intervention. And apparently, Charlie Kirk left the meeting early, very angry. And other supporters who were there with him also left angry. And there was something going on. So I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to read just a couple of paragraphs from this article. And or if anybody has any complaints or whatever, just let me know. I'm going to read just a couple of paragraphs from this article. Charlie Kirk refused Netanyahu funding offer, was frightened by pro-Israeli forces before his death, his friend reveals. This article written by Max Blumenthal and Anya Parampil. 2 days after his assassination, a Trump insider and long-term friend of Charlie Kirk tells the Gray Zone how the assassinated conservative leader's turning point on Israel influence provoked a private backlash from Netanyahu's allies that left him angry and afraid. The source said anxiety spread within the Trump administration after an apparent Israeli spying operation was uncovered. Charlie Kirk rejected an offer earlier this year from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to arrange a massive new infusion of Zionist money into his Turning Point USA, TPUSA organization, America's largest conservative youth association, according to a longtime friend of the slain commentator, speaking on the condition of anonymity. The source told the Gray Zone that the late pro-Trump influencer believed Netanyahu was trying to cow him into silence as he began to publicly question Israel's overwhelming influence in Washington and demanded more space to criticize it. So I'm going to pause this right now. And I think there are a few things we want to put together. Baba Junius, is he in the house?
He dropped out. I think he dropped out real quick.
Here he's back in the house again. Okay. Did you get a chance to hear that, Baba Junius, that I just read?
I was here.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. So what I want to just take a minute here and just give a hint to unpack some of what's going on. A number of different people who you and I have come to believe, largely because of the media, and let's just ask the question, we do know who has an undue influence on mass media in the United States, owning all of the major organizations. Am I correct?
Yeah, you're correct.
So those media outlets have led us, the consuming public, into believing that Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Max Blumenthal, and Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene are all enemies of the free press and the liberal and or left in this country. Am I correct?
Yes.
Not only that, you have Candace Owens, who has been broad brush painted as anti-Semitic, and also they're starting to demonize Carlson.
Yeah, all of those on this list are deemed by the Jewish structure, by AIPAC, to be anti-Semitic voices at this particular point. Now, there's two lefts in this country. There is the middle of the road left, and then there is the hard left. From my understanding, Dwara, you, like myself, consider ourselves to be the hard left. We're so hard left that we're coming around the right side again.
Sure. I would not even put myself in any of those boxes personally. I'm like I always gotta quote Baba Mumbera. I'm just a casual observer of this political circus.
That's a great quote. I will remember that. So we got to remember that others that were on the hard left included Malcolm X, who went so far hard left, he came around the right side, and a number of others. We could just go on and on. But I want to say that
I think what has happened is the left tried to hijack and incorporate Malcolm. I don't think by the strictest terms he was left.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he was more African-centered.
I agree.
Than anything.
More traditional, but, which is going to be conservative by default, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, but we must consider that according to the U.S. government's position, if you are Pan-African, you are a leftist. You are an enemy of the state as a leftist.
No,
so that's a point that I'm making. I am a serious, solid Pan-African, consistently so. And therefore, from their perspective, I would be considered far left. But from my values system, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't cuss, and I don't do all the other things in between there, because there's a big, huge ground in the middle of all that.
Right.
That indicates that I am conserving my purity, my body. So I want to point out that a few of, and I'm still identifying these camps, but I have statements from all of the above: Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Max Blumenthal, and Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who the media left despises her. Well, I have statements from all of these that talked about Charlie Kirk's disassociation from AIPAC, and further, that Charlie Kirk was apparently organizing his next meeting of his organization, and remind me of the organization's name again. I'm sorry. Turning Point USA.
USA.
Yeah, Turning Point. His next meeting was going to be all about his conversion away from AIPAC and starting to decry the way AIPAC controls Congress and decry the way AIPAC has been controlling the media. Your thoughts on those 2 points?
Well, even prior to that, I've seen clips where he challenged, even though he was still pro-Israeli in his support, he challenged the August 7th narrative.
October 7th.
October 7th narrative, where he talked about he had been to Israel numerous times. He knew how basically it was a surveillance state, and how nothing moves without being monitored or surveilled. And he started questioning that whole narrative about he raised the question, was there foreknowledge and a stand down? So that's one of the main things where the Zionists started, their ears perked up and they started, oh, well, wait a minute, hold it. He started coming on their radar in terms of he's leaving the reservation.
Yeah, very, very good point that you make there. So I will say I have so much to build on this story that it's way too much to interject today. Tomorrow I'm going to put or maybe it's not tomorrow, very soon, I'm going to do the whole story, lay it out, that the reason for Charlie Kirk's assassination was this 180-degree turnaround on the AIPAC and the Zionists.
Let me ask you a quick question, Baba. Has your research come across the fact that Ben Shapiro, of all people, was the first person to kind of speak up and say that he was going to help kind of not take over per se, but help kind of fill in for Turning Point USA, and knowing that he is one of the most pro-Israel, pro-Zionist, right-wing, conservative media pundits, if you will?
Not only that, there are people, so-called observers, who are pointing to the fact that Shapiro was going to be the bridge and step in and be the leader.
Right.
So I've heard that and I've seen. So I think that is something that we need to look at and say, okay, this is a piece of the puzzle where the Zionists are coming in and they're going to just totally derail that whole program.
Now, the other thing that needs to be mentioned is his Charlie Kirk's surviving wife, Erica. She has now been officially declared to be the leader and the I guess the new leader, for lack of a better, more official term, of Turning Point USA. So she has taken that position.
And have you any idea of her position on the Zionist connection?
I do not, but I don't like to assume, but I feel like intelligence might lead me to believe, or my own intuitive intelligence would lead me to believe that a wife is probably going to be in lockstep with her husband, unless she can be spoken to in a back room, which again, who knows? But I'm guessing they probably had deep conversations, as any husband and wife would, behind closed doors.
Yeah, we can only assume as much. It could go either way, that the wife might be more susceptible to what Israel had offered Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk refused the funding, millions and millions, tens, maybe hundreds of $1 for Turning Point USA. Just don't turn against AIPAC.
Right. Because they're losing the propaganda war.
Yeah, but I'm sure she's going to have some handlers or advisors,
right,
to help guide and counsel her in terms of the direction that the organization is going to take. And I'm sure somewhere within that cluster of advisors, there's going to be some hardcore Zionists.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
going to be very, very interesting, I would definitely say. Let's see who is in the house listening today. We do have, I'm looking at the YouTube page, and I do see Stray Godzilla is in the house. He says, greetings. They killed Charlie with a laser guided bullet, and I see no evidence of that. I would think that a laser guided bullet, you would see the laser beam show up in one of the videos, right? The targeting of the laser on his neck.
The last I saw is that they're now wondering if the shot came from the back. And the other thing to mention that seems to be new is the disappearance of someone disassembling the camera that was right behind him as soon as it occurred, which is essentially illegal to remove evidence from a crime scene.
Yeah.
But they do it all the time.
Right.
That's right. Stray Godzilla says also 50 states, 1 Israel, 250 lawmakers just visited Israel. And that's very interesting as well. I'm going to go over here to my Rumble page. Bear with me. And let's see how many people we have in our Rumble audience for today. I do see 4. Africa 1 is checking in from the UK. Hotep Mastermind Panel and Global Family. Brother Juma is in the house. And Ed L. Mack sends grand rising to the family. We ask everybody, if you're on Rumble, if you're on Facebook, can we get you to hit the like button and let everybody out there know what you do know about your LIB radio. And Guvu also checking in. He says, Sawubona, Shabaka 14 checking in. Greetings, Mastermind Panel and LIB family. I'm happy to be here and to get a weekly review of important information. Peace and power to all, to us all. Thank you very much. We do appreciate you all being in the house today. So,
Hey,
mm-hmm.
I'm curious about you and Duar's thoughts about this push for hate speech laws, anti-hate speech laws. That's, you're hearing the conversations coming up. So what do you think that means? What do you think that's going to do? Vis-a-vis.
Well, my first opinion is that the hate speech dialogue will ultimately be captured by AIPAC using the what's that group called that monitors hate speech and hate in America?
The ADL and the Southern Poverty Law.
Southern Poverty Law Center. That's right. Those and the ADL. I would say those two groups will undeniably hijack that legislation for their self-interest. And as of right now, from my understanding, there is legislation that has been passed. I may be incorrect there, but it has been passed that says that if you say anything about divest and boycott and boycotting Israel, that is considered to be a federal violation of hate speech laws.
Well, it's been passed in the House. It's still languishing in the Senate. It's called the it's AAA, anti-Semitism Act, something like that.
Okay. Yeah. I personally think that at this particular point, there are so many factions inside the United States that I think my team, and I would say that's the African team in America, we should pull back and just observe everybody else making their moves. But then again, not making a move at all, not aligning yourself at all, is now you're subject to being picked off by any of the groups.
But isn't that an example of game theory?
That's right. You're absolutely right.
In the real world?
That's right. So from the perspective then of Africans in America, what position do we take? Do we attempt to stand on truth, which means uncover the facts of the matter here, or to the very best of our abilities? Or should we just like be quiet, step to the side, and try not to be seen by anybody?
Well, I think we should always have a quest for truth because that's part of my eye.
Mm-hmm.
You
And
are absolutely right.
particularly as it impacts us as a people, it allows us to see some of the key players in this game theory. It helps us identify who are the real forces and who are the scrubs or the, you know, the cat's paws that are playing out in this situation. So yes, we need to understand what's going and understand what's going on from our perspective and from our interests, as opposed to getting all weepy about Charlie Kirk. And you know, it was a tragedy, but he was just one of many thousands of young men that were killed that day.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If I could go back to the hate speech question for a second, I have a kind of a simplistic view, hopefully not too simplistic, and that's that these middlemen and women, including Trump, Biden, Kamala Harris, Pam Bondi, all these people, I believe, are puppets, and they are not the ones really running the show, in my personal opinion. So whether left, whether right, the draconian measures and steps to try to curtail free speech, I think ultimately is anti-Ma'at and anti-Ubuntu. In order to arrive at the truth, you have to be able to share your opinion. I'm vehemently, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm vehemently for free speech. If someone hates African people, isn't it better in the spirit of Ma'at to know that from that person instead of what we're getting now, especially from the left, where a lot of this language is couched in this duplicitous kind of linguistic gymnastic language to try not to appear racist, even though clearly certain policies and actions and ideas are ultimately and fundamentally and foundationally racist. So I think I would rather know, and I feel like Dave Chappelle had some sort of a skit or something on this. I would rather know where someone's coming from and they be allowed to say it than to have to wonder what is in the heart of the heart and mind of another human being that feels they have to walk on eggshells. I mean, to me, that muddles and muddies the waters in such a way that Ma'at is not able to prevail. The truth is not able to prevail if people can't be free in their speech. And so ultimately, long story short, I think that either side, and the ones that are maybe really running the show up at the top, be that the World Economic Forum, the Rothschilds, the Trilateral Commission, etc., that they as their modicum of absolute domination and control want to try to hinder free speech and just to control the narrative and to control and surveil at the end of the day.
I said one of the things that we have done in this discussion, and I think they have allowed what you just talked about, the narrative control. They act like this is something new. Think back, there's never been freedom of speech for African people in this country. No. Think about David Walker's appeal, what they did in terms of once he published that. Think about Ida B. Wells Barnett, how they destroyed her printing press and ran her out of Memphis. Think about all the other newspapers, Freedom's Journal, that failed.
Paul Robeson as well.
Oh yeah, well, see that, Paul Robeson. What's the Langston Hughes? They hauled him before the House Un-American Activities Committee. So there's never been a place and space in this country where there was freedom of speech, freedom of press, or any way to stand up and offer a debate about what's going on. The thing that's most insulting to me about this whole thing, I saw a piece where they equated Kirk's murder to Martin Luther King's assassination. I mean, that's sacrilegious.
Yeah.
In terms of what movement for social change, what laws has Charlie Kirk been about to undo? What societal change, other than on a mental level, which is important, has that man done?
And on the flip side, it reduces ancestor Martin Luther King to some sort of a campus debater, and that's it.
Yeah, good point that you make, or compares him to a campus debater, man who gave his life and won a Nobel Prize before having done so. So, I mean, but they can do what they want to do because they have a much stronger plan for their future. It's not ma'at. It's far from ma'at. And I do believe, this is my personal bias, that only ma'at can save us all for in perpetuity.
I agree.
And that's the very reason they're doing everything they can to stomp out any vestiges of ma'at. Whether it's called ma'at, because the same mindset was not just in the Nile Valley, it was everywhere Africans were dispersed within the continent. And when you look at indigenous people, they had some versions of that as part of their culture, their day-to-day life, as well as their cosmology and value system. And when you look at the West, Dr. Ani called it Urugu, and that's what it is.
The incomplete being.
Mm-hmm.
The self-aborted one.
All right. Well, we are here today, and we are doing the best we can to put all of the things happening into context. I want to pivot just a little bit, unless anybody else has any questions or comments on this thing. And again, I'm going to do a much more fuller report on this coming up very soon. But I think I want to pivot on the whole idea of these factions that are being formed in America. On one hand, you have the MAGA force, and the MAGA force represents a segment of, but not the federal government, because you have this large group of federal government employees that are disaffected by the MAGA movement. But you have also the AIPAC and its Zionist forces. You have the ultra right. You have your Charlie wing right. There's another right wing represented by people to the right of Charlie Kirk, and I can't remember the name of their spokesman, but he's a nasty little dude. He's a nasty sucker.
Is that the alt-right?
I don't know if it's the alt-right, but they are representative of the group that marched in Charlotte.
Right.
Yeah.
And see that when you look at, because I had no idea who Charlie Kirk was, so I did some research. So when he was making his plan and doing his movement, which he didn't start by himself, by the way, he was taken under the wing by some guy named what's his name? Bill Montgomery, who was like 71 years old. He was very influential in getting the organization up and running and getting it getting money.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie Kirk chose not to align himself with that faction that you just mentioned, Keely, which is the neo-fascist, almost Ku Klux Klan, you will not erase racist type.
Yeah.
And he chose the Christian nationalists or Christian right, probably because it was more. There were more people in it. It was a wider constituency, and it saved him from a lot of scrutiny and attack early on. Even though, as you guys mentioned, you brothers mentioned last week, he was a race baiter, and he did say some things that were, structurally unsound. So we this requires a deep scrutiny into what's going on, because it allows us to see who the major players are, what's going on, and helps. I see the direction you're going, Keedy. It's a good direction because you're identifying the various grades, degrees within these, because it's not a monolithic. The left is not monolithic, and nor is the right. So that's
Right.
There's a lot of
And
overlap.
then I was just real quickly going to say that name. I was trying to think of Nick Fuentes,
right.
a rabid right winger.
Yeah.
And he's coming under. I saw a lengthy article. This guy is just demonizing him, and he claimed, and I forgot who wrote the article. He claims that Fuentes stole or expropriated or plagiarized a lot of his ideas from him.
Yeah, he's being kind of blamed.
I wouldn't deny it. You're saying Duara?
He's being blamed for it. The left is trying to, I think, create more of a schism between Charlie Kirk and Nick Fuentes. But it's interesting. I did see something along those same lines, Baba Junius as well. Yeah, at the end of the day, I think our people just have to really be clear about what our morals and values and principles are, and what that means, because there's a lot of overlap, like I mentioned earlier, and these things get easily muddled. It's part of what I would say is anarcho-tyranny, where you can't really tell what camp someone is, because there's so much overlap, and there's so many issues on the table, so many identities. I think our people just need to make sure not to get swallowed up in that, as if there isn't a third way. And me personally, I believe that's Pan-Africanism, like you mentioned, Baba Keedy. And so many of our people, unfortunately, don't even realize that is a third way. And that is where one of my concerns lies, is that I think too often, most of us in this country anyways, most people of African descent in this country feel they either need to check the right box or the left box. And I think both of them are poisonous for our people.
Do you think that the country is moving toward anarchy? And anarchy in this sense would be whoever can pull together the largest group and they can assert their force will rule whatever they can conquer.
I'll say this. If people are being murdered because they espouse an opinion that is different from the murderer, then yeah, that to me is evidence of anarchy. Is that just because someone disagrees with somebody, no Ubuntu, no discussion, no Ma'at, no Mbongi, just I'm gonna take you out.
All right, but look at, from our perspective, I know we're looking at the current events, but let's look at it, put that in a historical perspective, and how they've treated us because we dare to resist. I mean, they put like I don't know, I think it was like $5,000 bounty on David Walker's head. Think about that in the early 19th century. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. Yeah. And then so, $2 million on Assata Shakur.
Yeah. So
that's right.
Again, oftentimes we get caught up in the narrative and we get all weepy about what's going on with somebody else, but we negate our own experiences, which is catastrophic. And the other thing, I think this is part and parcel of problem, solution, reaction. I think it's part of a design plan to destabilize and bring in social disintegration in this country, going back to what happened with George Floyd. And I think this is just the flip side of what happened there, where they used that situation to destabilize the country, talk about stuff, defunding the police, do this, do that. And I think we're going to see similar activities as a result of this murder. Maybe not the violence in the streets per se, because we all know that was orchestrated. We all know how Antifa and Black Lives Matter were manipulated and used. So it remains to be seen what's going to happen, because the rhetoric that I'm seeing on the right, that's what they're calling for.
We have a question in the chat from 4 Africa 1 who resides in UK. Is any of this likely to have a direct impact on the lives of African people at home and abroad? That's her question.
I'm going to cite the book Target Africa, which spotlights the ideologies of LGBT, feminism, promiscuity, abortion. I think it's actively happening as we speak. Also, follow a deep continental brother by the name of Artwell Nehemiah, whose books I often talk about on here, who is very scholarly in his documentation of these ideologies and the technocracy and these transhumanistic policies being not only experimented on the continent, but also being pushed there as well. So I think it's all connected. At the end of the day, like I said earlier, and hopefully this isn't too simplistic of a view, but I believe it was Rahm Emanuel that said, never let a crisis go to waste. And so the powers that be, so to speak, again, we on LIB, I know, always like to name them. So I'll say the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, the IMF, the World Bank, the Bilderbergers, the Trilateral Commission, the Club of Rome, the Committee of 300, Tavistock Institute, all of these major policymakers and shapers in the world, they are looking for absolute control and domination of the world. And so, yes, the continent, by the very nature of that, is directly going to be involved, and oftentimes used as an experimental ground for these technologies and these poisonous experimental injections and all that. Look at Bill Gates, and if you really do a deep dive into what Whitney Webb exposed with Jeffrey Epstein's work on the continent of Africa, that is some very scary stuff as well, with a man by the name of Benjamin Goertzel, who another member of the tribe, quote unquote, who is doing experimentation in Ethiopia.
Baba Junius, did you want to respond to 4 Africa 1's question? Is any of this likely to have a direct impact on the lives of African people at home and abroad?
Definitely. We see it being played out now, but because the focus is on Charlie Kirk, we're not seeing what's going on simultaneously with the ICE raids, with the militarization of the police, with Trump putting troops on the streets in cities like Washington, D.C. He's planning to do it in Chicago and Memphis.
And Baltimore.
And
it's going on in Chicago.
This is going to go all over. So I'm calling it a giant psyop. And it's just on the same magnitude as 9/11. What happened after 9/11 domestically. It's the same magnitude of what happened with the COVID psyop domestically. And here, again, we're getting used to seeing a Nazi type troops or raids, got people in mass tracking down so-called immigrants, a lot of them who are deeply melanated. And then you're seeing, we're getting used to, and we're passively accepting the militarization of the National Guard to patrol U.S. cities in direct violation of the Posse Comitatus Act.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So all of this is part and parcel of a greater plan. And when you think about dark enlightenment, it falls right into that category.
Mm-hmm. And in responding to our sister's question, which I think is a very, very important question, we should always ask the question, how does that influence our best self-interest? Because we do have security interests that are, I think, far more important than what is happening with the disintegration of this right-wing MAGA force. Sudan is a serious issue that we as African people need to be dealing with, and we are not dealing with it in America. I hope our brothers and sisters in the UK are doing better with regard to peace for Sudan than what is happening here, but it's not happening here. The whole African continent, the contest between the World Bank, IMF, and Africa's natural resource base, very serious issues. So it's a balancing act. I will say this much. Without an effective leadership giving us as a people directions that we can all agree that's good leadership, that's leading us to the right direction, without that effective leadership in this country, we're just like corks on a lake and the wind is blowing and there is no guidance for that cork on a lake. We may stay afloat, but we're just being pushed around as if our sense of direction doesn't even matter at all. So I welcome your question for Africa One, because ultimately that question is for us at LIB Radio. Are we focusing too much on something that doesn't affect us? I agree, Baba Junius and Dawara. It's already affecting us quite a bit. And there's no mechanism for us to be able to assert ourselves, to gain control. The issue of the Palestinians, South Africa stepped in very early on and tried to put an end to the Western humiliation, domination, and genocide that's taking place. And the whole world, not the whole world, but much of the empowered world, especially the gray zone, not the gray zone, the Urugu zone, just ignored what South Africa had to say about that. So
I think even further, they were called to task on it. And when Ramaphosa was brought to the White House and made to look like some sort of fool, I think that was part of the spanking that Israel made the U.S. do. But Baba Junius is probably a lot more educated on that than I am.
No, there's no question that was part and parcel of the get back. Mm-hmm. They had to do whatever they could to discredit South Africa. And while there were many people in support of what they did, very few stepped in line and said, hey, what's that process when someone filed an amicus brief in the United States, if you file a lawsuit and somebody else to come and say, okay, well, I'll file an amicus brief to be supported. Well, in that situation, very few nations stepped up to say, hey, sign me up. Let me sign. Let me be a co-signer to this movement.
I think Colombia stepped up, and we're seeing them really get hammered by the Trump administration as well.
Mm-hmm. Queen Mother Kashiba is in the chat, who seems to agree. In fact, she wrote this just before I just made my tirade. The news media has ignored the war in Sudan, especially black news media, and the Arab connection to the deaths of millions, also South African problems. So obviously Queen Mother and I are absolutely in sync with our understanding of what's going on in ideology.
Add me to that list if in Mayati and Synchronicity, because I just posted up in the private chat an article from Covert Action magazine on the United Arab Emirates as a cancer spreading in Africa, directly having to do with Sudan. So definitely check that article out, and if you could be so gracious as to push that up for me, Baba, I appreciate it.
I would definitely do that. The King Jason.
Let's not forget United States direct action against I think it's Ethiopia, as well as what they're doing to the people that they call the Houthis.
Right.
This is direct, it's not just Israel that's bombing the Houthis, it's the United States, and they've been bombing the Houthis on behalf of Saudi Arabia for years. This has been going on for years, and there's direct Trump administration involvement in Ethiopia. So
Somalia too. Yep.
Yeah. So we can see what's going on, but we need to become broadcasters of this information because most of our people are unaware.
First country that Trump bombed during his second term back in January was Somalia. So I agree. It's always the horn.
All right.
It's always the horn, which is where we find our greatest and grandest civilizations that is under attack. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and it's getting crazier. It's gotten crazy. It's gone crazy, but it's getting even worse. We recall that Israel recently bombed the United States, quote unquote, ally in the West, Qatar. And didn't the president or a significant, one of the wealthy billionaires from Qatar just give Trump a $400 million Boeing jet as a gift?
Yeah.
So
right,
this is, yeah, that happened just very recently. Israel then bombs them. I have a headline up: Israel attack on Hamas leadership in Qatar tests U.S. ties. Could it be that these U.S. ties right now, that the United States has just succumbed and is now being guided around by the tail wagging the dog?
Hey, before I leave, I want to make a correction. The United States did not bomb Ethiopia. So,
Oh, okay. I kind of missed that statement, but United States did not bomb Ethiopia, but they did support the Tigray People's Liberation Force, which caused a lot of havoc.
And they did bomb Somalia, yes.
right.
Okay, we have we are at the top of the hour. You have to leave now, Baba Junis?
Yes, I'm gonna leave. You have any more comments from the viewers? And after that,
We have it in the chat. We can go to Rumble. Queen Mother Kashiba writes, South African industries are suffering and pulling out. Will the divestment and unemployment problems be used as a tool to put pressure on the government to favor a separate state in the Western Cape? I did give a little of attention to this past week, but it wasn't a lot of attention. The idea of a separatist movement in South Africa, it could happen in the Western Cape, and there is a strong force lining up for that. South Africa has a lot of problems. They got serious security problems, job-related problems. Employment in South Africa is so bad. It's only going to worsen as you see more of this political and economic separation between the dominant economic force, the whites in South Africa, and the rest of the people. I don't know if there's anything that I can say or do about that.
It's interesting. South Africa, or Azania as we like to call it, is already fragmented. Now, I don't know enough about the recent political history for this fragmentation and whether it's good for us as a people or not. But with Eswatini, with Lesotho, you know,
Lesotho.
thank you.
Hmm.
I'm wondering if the creation of these smaller countries or these smaller states, I'm wondering if that I'm wondering what the strategic advantage of that is. So now, if Western Cape is trying to secede, does that further that fragmentation, and is that a good thing or a bad thing for our people, strategically, militaristically?
And I would further ask the question, what have we heard from Julius Malema on the issue of South Africa carving off a piece of his country?
Right.
I haven't heard anything from him. That's probably on the part of the controlled media in the United States doesn't want to put any attention on him because he's anti-Zionism as well.
Right. Yeah, they're not going to give him a voice, a positive one, anyways. They'll demonize him as they've done. But
That's right.
They won't give him a positive voice.
So it's all going to get very, very interesting. Do you have any other topics, subjects that you want to put on the table before you have to depart us, Baba Juniors?
Yeah, I saw a piece that there were, let's see, 143 soldiers trained in Mexico. These were Haitian military. There were several females in the group, and they were trained in self-defense, arms, small arms, and weaponry, as well as human rights. And also, we need to keep an eye on what just happened to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on the 17th, where the Senate just attacked him viciously.
Mm-hmm.
What does this mean for Big Pharma? What does this mean in terms of the vaccine policies, which the COVID narrative is falling apart every day, where reports and stories are coming. I mean, your favorite place, Duar, Slay News, has at least 4 stories or 3 or 4 stories on it.
Daily.
Yeah.
Daily. It's crazy.
So those are some things I just wanted to point out. And also, yes, again, what the Dark Enlightenment Zionist movement is doing to this country in terms of the military and establishing a techno-feudalistic system in terms of what's it called, Palantir. Look at what's going on with that, the facial recognition that's going on. That's how they're using to track down these so-called immigrants. And notice the people that they're demonizing are people of color, the immigrants and cities that have a large Black population and that are led by Black mayors. So keep that in mind as we move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, good brothers and sisters, I have to exit the premises. So be well.
All right. Thank you for your contribution. You always do a great job, Baba Juniors. We appreciate, love you.
Be safe, and happy born day to that community elder for making 100 years strong.
Yep.
That's pretty awesome.
Yep. Awesome.
All right.
All right. We continue. Brother Dwara has gone invisible on us, or he remains invisible on us, but he is in the house.
Indeed.
And what else can we talk about? Queen Mother Kashiba is pointing our attention to South Africa. She said South Africa already has 3 separate white-only towns. The Western Cape has numerous mineral resources and a high white population. I do think that should be a critical concern for all of us. It's like we're overwhelmed. Where do we put our attention now? And then the question remains, how do we keep as many of our people focused on any topic as we possibly can? LAB Radio does have to compete for our people's attention. We have to compete against football, against the fast food commercials.
Right.
We have to compete against Ozempic. We have to compete for our people's attention You know, I do focus a lot of our attention on health on LIB Radio, but even then, I have to compete against Doritos and Pepsi Cola and alcohol commercials.
And their budget is a lot bigger than ours, isn't it?
Their budget compared to the budget that we spend on LIB Radio, there is no comparison. We don't exist. We're a mosquito in a field of eagles.
Let me ask you this, Baba. Is this retreat into hedonism, this retreat into all things that feel good and taste good and make us feel fluffy and buttery and cheesy and smooth, is that why we find it so hard for our people to focus? Because the focus is a big one. I mean, I love our people so much. I would not be on here every Sunday if we didn't love our people. And that frustration, Baba Ifayomi back in the day told me, means we care. You know what I mean? But, you know, I know so many of our people that are just, they're over here, they're over there, that now they're over there. We're just kind of perpetually distracted, unfocused, just kind of all over the place. And I'm wondering, is that part of some sort of a self-medication coping mechanism strategy that we have fallen into, is because we're so anxious and stressed out and overwhelmed with all this stimulus being lauded at us? Have we just given up?
I think you are right on point, and they're on point for bringing it up. The retreat into hedonism and, you know, overeating. Our people amongst the American population overeat and it's kind of obvious, and we're talking about as many as 80% of African Americans are overweight and or obese. That's male and female. We have retreated from responsibility, the most fundamental responsibility that we have as animals or as mammals on this planet, is to eat healthy and feed our children healthy food to nourish their bodies, to keep us functioning so that we can compete. We can't compete on any front. Might it be what we're eating? You know, I'm going to say yes to that.
Right. And if we take the ancestral viewpoint that we are more than mammals or animals, that we are spiritual beings, the case can be made even more so that we need to be treating ourselves better, taking care of ourselves. You don't have to laugh. I think it was Baba Pianki back on the Falcon Forum that said that some of these giraffes are taking better care of their children than some of us are, you know, licking them and cleaning them and guiding them and making sure they're going to walk properly. Now, that's an extreme, you know, metaphor example. I get it. But, you know, one of the most fundamental things is us taking care of ourselves. We can't lose that. We can't lose that.
And in taking care of ourselves, that also does include, you would say, taking care of our minds, our brains, our consciousness.
It has to be holistic. One of my action steps for today is exactly that. Keep the soul away from chaos, the mind free of excrement, and the body devoid of chemicals. That's the holistic. The mind, the spirit or the soul, and the body. Got to keep that pure. Got to keep that pure. If we're going to exercise what you remind us as exquisite and clear and healthy executive reasoning function, we have to be able to stay clear so we make good decisions. That's
right. We do have another comment in the chat. I think it's relative to what we're talking about. Ed writes, I just recently watched the Superman movie, and to me, it seems to symbolize what's going on in the world today? Has anyone else watched this movie, Superman? I'm not even going to ask you that question.
You know the answer.
No, brother Ed, but we would, love to know about your synopsis of the movie. What points in the movie does it talk about the war, the globalist war against the corporations, or war between states? What parts would you say is pointing out that are relevant? I have not, and probably won't see the Superman movie. I'm not into not I I don't mean to offend anyone, but I'm just not into the comic books being made into movies. Except for the Black Panther was the only comic book made into movies that I was even vaguely interested in.
Right, right. A lot of those Marvel movies too have direct contracts with I guess now the Department of War and the Pentagon and whatnot. Yeah, a lot of those movies are recruitment propaganda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So maybe Ed, you can give us a couple of points from the movie that we would be concerned about. Maybe you might even talk Brother Dwara into going to watch Superman movie.
Probably not, but I'd love to hear his synopsis. It reminds me of what's the brother's name? Jeremiah Kamara used to do the film analysis, and
yeah,
that was deep. It was interesting, you know.
Oh yeah, love Jeremiah Kamara. I reached out to him just about 4 weeks ago, and see if I can get him back working with us here on LB Radio. We used to have him on quite a bit. I love how all of our conversations we've had with that brilliant psychological analyst.
I say.
And he did a lot of work on religion too, and I think that was definitely his calling card. Because
Holy Lockdown, right?
Yeah, Holy Lockdown. He did a number of different things. And to me, religion is one of the greatest weaknesses of this group that we unfortunately have to identify with, the Africans in America. And Africans on the continent too. Religion has done a worse job, is doing a worse job to our brothers and sisters on the continent because it's knocking them down from a position of their inevitable empowerment even faster than it did us. I mean, it took a century or more for religion to sap us of everything we have, but it appears to be happening in Africa at most half the time.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. There's a proverb about those who spear themselves should not cry for help. Are we spearing ourselves, Baba? Are we? I mean, that's along with Fade to Black, right?
Yeah.
At what point? At what point do we take responsibility? Because that is kind of the tricky thing. Is that yes, there are external forces that are lauded against us, and at the same time, we're perpetuating a lot of that as well, and so it becomes a question of where does the archer aim his arrow? Should we be pointing that at ourselves? Are we spearing ourselves, or is it just Willie Lynch? Are we still on Willie? Is Willie Lynch still controlling us from beyond the grave, despite the fact that Professor Manu and Pim debunked that
and put Willie Lynch, put him in the grave. And now we're digging him back out to see if we can revive him.
Oh no.
Yeah, where do we begin to do it? I'd say from now on, we should take on every front that we can possibly handle. I'm doing what I'm doing. You're doing what you're doing. And we are doing what we are doing. But we can say that as much as we are doing, it's still not good enough to knock the African American off the present course that they're on, or the African in America, the African in UK, the Africans across the diaspora, and on the continent is not sufficient to knock us off on this degenerative course that we're on so that we can assume an appropriate response to the world that we are envisioning today. It's experiencing today. It's tragic, but as you say, ultimately, we got to take responsibility. Where do we begin? Today. Where do we act? Everywhere. Take responsibility. It's not going to be easy. Some of us have to put our families back together.
Yeah. Nope, that's a big one. And I think part of that is learning to recognize propaganda. And so there's an Off Guardian article that I wanted to spotlight today. The U.S. government is waging psychological war on its citizens inside the deep state psyops machine, and that is by John and Nisha Whitehead. And it does a pretty good job of breaking down propaganda and weaponize. Here are some of the headlines: weaponizing compliance, weaponizing entertainment, weaponizing behavioral science and nudging, weaponizing desensitization, weaponizing fear, weaponizing genetics, weaponizing the future. The article does a really good job at breaking down these various aspects of psychological war. So I'll put that up in the private chat, so that, you might be able to push that up. It's a great read on Off Guardian, and I urge all our people to read it, but not to feel overwhelmed or anxious by it, because in order to solve a problem, we first have to understand that problem, and then we can put our creative thinking caps on, our ancestral thinking caps, or how about this, our ancestral thinking kufis on.
There you go. That's right. It's very serious. Another comment came in. We see in the chat, Rory has joined us. If you look one by one at the 10 areas of people activities, the white man is responsible for 80% of black people's problems. And I take it he's referring to Neely Fuller and Francis Cress Welsing's list. They talk about 9 areas of people activity. I ultimately expanded that up to, I think, 16 areas.
Right.
I started with health. Health was obviously missing from it, but then we expanded it of different areas of our focus. But the white man is responsible for 80% of black people's problems. Your response to that statement, I'm not sure I'm going to agree with that. I think we're being irresponsible.
Yeah, it's complicated. I think on the one hand, if the statement was revised to be that Eurasian or Uruguayan culture is, and its cultural leaders have a propensity for isfet, chaos, confusion, domination, control. I can agree with that. Whether the white man rules the world, I'm gonna have to quote a page from your book, Baba, is that you and I have been to places where white people are not in charge.
That's right.
And people are autonomous. Our people are autonomous. Our people are making decisions for themselves. Now, there will always be influence. There will always be coercion. There will always be attempts at deception, influence.
And technology to some extent is associated with the white man's technological progress, but that's no longer is the case. Japan and China have been leading technology around the world for decades now.
Exactly. I think the only thing I can say, and I'll close with this, is that I think the deeper question might be, how much of this technology should we use, and like China and Japan, have they gotten away from their indigenous worldview based on their use of this Uruguayan or European technology? And so I think there's a fine line there, and I don't have an answer, but I'm constantly thinking about, if can one borrow things from the devil and not become evil? And that is more of a philosophical question, but
Hmm.
I'd love to hear your response as well, brother.
Well, on the other hand,
Mhm.
it is because of using the devil's technologies, including nuclear weapons,
Right.
that they have been able to defend themselves against the culture wars.
It's true.
And the culture wars are, from my perspective, far more damaging. If you're looking at African people on this planet, we outnumber the Indians, which are the largest nation on earth. We outnumber the Chinese, the second largest nation on earth. We are, of course, not one nation. We are over 70 different nations where African people are found. But we are the number one group on the planet. And that makes us by far not a minority, far more than the Europeans. So then we ask the question, what do Europeans have that they can rule over us? Look at South Africa, 9% of the population ruling over 90, another almost 90%. There are other groups there as well.
Hmm.
They're using technology, tricknology as you call it, and they're manifesting it as part of a complete program that they have and do continue to refine, design, and refine a complete program for dominance.
Mm, mm. I wanna say that just like the earth is an unbiased vessel, meaning you can plant nightshade, which is an organic poison, and the earth will grow it, or you can plant sweet potatoes or yams, and that's sustenance, that's food, and the earth will grow it. So I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I'm wondering if this technology can be rescued by our people in such a way that it is used for good and
Mhm.
we don't have to be poisoned by it. But then again, the other side of me looks at the data in terms of this loneliness epidemic, the mental health epidemic, the antisocial behavior epidemic, the anxiety and stress epidemic, the suicide epidemic, and all of those are found to be correlated with, I don't know if it's use of or excessive use of this type of technology, this
Yeah,
algorithmic screen time, this anti-social social media.
that's right. We're consuming it without being aware of the impact it has on culture. And ultimately, if I want to defeat you for all time,
Mm,
I will to control your culture.
right,
Or if I want you to win for all time in all areas, I want to control your culture.
right. Your worldview, your
That's right.
consciousness.
Two comments I want to share. Ed L. Mack, we were asking about his perspective of Superman. He wrote, the Superman heroism brought down, and he was in prison because he stopped a war between two neighboring foreign countries. He was accused of being sent here to take over the world while the whole time the ones wanting to take over just wanted him out of the way. Yeah, I can definitely see analogies to what is happening in the world today behind that. That's pretty good analysis, and you almost talked me into wanting to watch it. I'll watch it when it comes on cable television. Um, we do see Juma in the house, brother Juma. Always great to have you in the house. He asks, where is that place where black people are in charge of their lives? You had mentioned that earlier. I'll mention just one place, even though there are multiple places where I have been and
Sure.
seen black people in charge of the state and their culture. The first one I would mention would definitely be Ethiopia,
Yep.
and the
Definitely.
second one I would mention would be Dahomey.
Mm. And we'll throw in Burkina Faso as well.
There you go. Burkina Faso is a good example. And but to that extent, it's compromise. And we do have recognize we are in no position to be uncompromising in the world until we can manufacture everything we need and we consume, from cars to insurance and everything else in between. We are going to have to compromise with what's in place.
Wouldn't you agree, Baba, that going to a nation such as Ethiopia, where everything is written in the ancient African language, Ge'ez and Amharic,
Mm-hmm.
and to see our own alphabet, and then to fly on Ethiopia Airlines and to be greeted by a plane filled with beautiful hostesses and stewardesses, and the plane being driven by an African pilot and being
Mm-hmm.
served Ethiopian food on the meal. I don't know the extent to which most of our people have traveled to the continent, but we have to keep in mind that a lot of what we think we know about motherland Africa has been through the propaganda, the propagandic lens of movies and media and magazines and books and TV shows. And unless and until you go there and you see that everyone that is making the society function is Black, that does something psychologically. And it did something psychologically for Richard Pryor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point you make. Excellent point. And yeah, I do so often recommend to all my Christian brothers and sisters, if you do believe in the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and all of that, you need to go back to the roots of Christianity on this planet. You will find that when it filtered through the Greeks, then the Romans, then the Romans, then the Romans, through the Germans, then the British, and filtered then through to the Americans, through to the whole American enslavement system, then was filtered on to us, you wouldn't even recognize Christianity. You need to go back to the source, and the best we have, the closest we have to the source of Christianity is the nation of Ethiopia. You will come back completely transformed and changed.
And ironically enough, someone just sent me this the other day. Pope Leo. I'm not so good with the Roman numerals. I'd prefer Amharic numerals, but forgive me for not being able to figure out these Roman numerals off the top of my head. But the latest pope has publicly acknowledged African roots in a newly released interview. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Now, is he talking about his African roots or the African roots of the Catholic Church?
No, I believe it's of the Catholic Church.
Oh, I was going to say, because it sounded like he might have had one in the wood pile.
Right. Well, that too, right? Yeah. Well, hey, it all goes back to Africa as far as I'm concerned. So
that's true. That's ultimately very true.
They're the ones with the problem of not wanting to embrace their genetic mother and father.
Right. And also, we do see there is consistent push by the Catholic leadership to integrate Africa more and more into modern Catholicism, because the Africans are having babies. The European Catholics have essentially stopped having babies. Used to be Spain, Italy, Portugal, and Ireland were considered to be baby boom states, largely because they were Catholic. It ain't like that no more.
Right. I want to apologize, Baba. I'm kind of skimming the article again. It does look like he is not talking about the African roots of Christianity, which we know are real, but he's talking about his own roots. So that's my apology. I apologize. Just to correct that statement, he is talking about his own ethnic roots.
Oh, okay. So he did have one in the woodpile, huh?
Yeah, you called it, Baba. Said is the grandson of a mixed race Black Creole. Man, that's a mouthful, isn't it? All these identity options. All basically that's like a long way of saying he was African. A mixed race Black Creole. These terms are very interesting.
Well, and used to be the one drop rule. One drop of black blood doth another N-word make.
And you said we'll claim it. We'll claim it. You know what I mean?
Hey, we'll claim it when it's to our advantage. To me,
Absolutely.
The new Pope Leo is not a bad person, not unworthy of being claimed. Whereas the whole doctrine of the
Yeah,
Catholic Church. Well, we separated from that back in the Roman times.
exactly. And you can't profess to have African roots and not mention the papal bulls that first allowed the Portuguese into the African continent, in order to wage direct warfare on all those that were seen as heathens and savages. And so
Yeah.
hopefully he spotlights that as well. But I
Yeah.
haven't
Now,
seen
did you say those were the papal bulls, or was that papal bullsh?
that. Yeah, the latter for
Yeah.
sure.
All right. We are nearing the point where we're going to begin to wrap it up with so many topics on the table. And I'll be honest with you, all morning long, I was only researching one thing,
Mm.
and that is what are the links that tie Israel's intelligence network to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And right now, as you and I speak, there is a huge memorial for Charlie Kirk that's been taking place in Arizona. They actually had to hold it at the Arizona, I think the Arizona Cardinals football stadium was unused this week, so that's where it's being held. There's a number of prominent speakers being welcomed to speak there. From my understanding, that included Donald Trump, the Vice President J.D. Vance, and a number of others. But I bet you it did not include Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Max Blumenthal, or Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who have now all come out and said they heard directly from Charlie Kirk that he was reversing his position on the Zionist state. And
Yeah.
he was openly reaching out to his other fellow MAGA supporters and asking the simple question, why do we allow AIPAC to be running over the United States? We're slaves to AIPAC, America, and Donald Trump has had to confront that as well. I wonder if the name AIPAC will even be spoken from the podium there in Arizona today.
That, to me, coming from him, if he said that, and I believe he did, it seems kind of naive for someone like him to not understand the extent of blackmail, or as we like to say, white mail, because that's who's doing the blackmail. Is the white mail.
That's right.
That's called a triple pun, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it is, from your perspective, from my perspective, it is too little, much too late.
Yeah.
And the much too little, much too late, he finally caught up with him. I think his transformation was taking place over the last 6 months or so, 5 to 6 months. And then it finally caught up with him in the speed of a flash of light and a bullet.
Yeah. Yeah, these be some interesting times. These be some interesting times we live in. If I could turn to a positive story, on the Good News Network, there is an article, terracotta is a 3,000-year-old solution to fighting extreme heat. And this is from September 1st, 2025 on the Good News Network. When we talk, Baba, about these indigenous knowledge systems, these African wisdom teachings, and this trying to think of the term, this canon, or this reservoir of ancestral knowledge and wisdom that we can pull from, are we oftentimes, I wonder if we're trying to reinvent the wheel? And this also goes with the whole technology thing too. Does technology, is it Yurugu's idea to always reinvent the wheel in their egotism, in their Yuruguan cultural nature, to be the incomplete one, and thinking that they are the ones that are going to solve all the world's problems with their egomania and their narcissism? Whereas we have a tendency to be able to rely upon thousands and thousands of years of of solutions and answers that our ancestors had already come up with. And one of these is the 3,000-year-old technology, specifically in India. This article talks about of terracotta and its porous surface, making it uniquely timeless passive cooling system. And there spotlights several companies that are manufacturing terracotta refrigerators capable of keeping items cool and preserved for 3 to 5 days in optimal conditions, all without power or ice.
Wow. That's pretty interesting research there, no doubt whatsoever. Well, hopefully society will take the time out and will pull some of those scientists out of the defense, quote unquote, supporting industries or the Department of War,
Right.
and let them start to look at nature and how do we better integrate ourselves into nature? How do we better understand nature to even integrate ourselves into it? There is great hope. It will be from my perspective, it will be not Urugu centered researchers, but it will be researchers from the global south who've been living close to nature for so long, who will then start to look at the fine points of nature. India is a country that has this potential, while at the same time India has to struggle integrating itself into its potential as a global superpower. So therefore, investing in weapons and all the destruction and the mechanism and the technology, while at the same time India has to integrate itself into nature. It's going to be interesting times ahead. There is no one solution fits all. The solution for India is not at all a solution for Africa. India is overpopulated for its size, size of the nation, while Africa is underpopulated.
I see. Yeah, so I just wanted to spotlight that as an example of if we're spiritual beings and we're connected to nature, then I want to say the belief is that nature provides everything that we need to survive, and yet perhaps the antithesis of that is if one is a despiritualized person, a technocrat or a transhumanist, then that is seen as primitive and savage and barbaric, and that nature needs to be perfected and fixed as if it's broken. And by coming up with a new quote unquote technology that can be made, that billions can be made off of, that is seen as superior, and our ancestors obviously do not agree with that.
That's right. Let's begin to wrap it up, if you don't mind. I'm getting a little tired, and I do just remember I got a client coming over to pick up some food in a couple of hours, so I'm going to have to get in the kitchen and sort of do my thing in the kitchen. Did we have any other stories on your tablet that you had brought for today's conversation?
I did have several other ones. I think I'm going to save those for next week. But I'm looking into this article from the Daily Mail, the Rust Belt city where children keep vanishing and there's no one to look for them. And that actually has an update to it. I can't read the report right now because I'm being blocked. I can't unlock the full story. But this is an update. A year later, now September 14th, 2025, City of Vanishing Children, the dark truth but behind the thousands of missing kids in Rust Belt town and the underworld they are plunged into. So it's caught my attention. I haven't heard any mainstream media talking about that. We do know about sex trafficking, human trafficking. We do know about organ harvesting. And they're talking about hundreds of children being taken from the Cleveland, Ohio area. Just completely disappeared. So that was one story. And then I mentioned earlier, which I posted up in the private chat, United Arab Emirates, a cancer spreading in Africa. And that's dated September 9th of this year, 2025. And that's from Covert Action Magazine. But other than that, I am complete.
All right. Well, I thank you so much for all of your contributions to today's show. I'm going to put up that terracotta link that you had shared with us. I do agree that is a very important link for our people to pay attention to. I'm looking at another story, and I'm going to kind of close with this.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you your opinion. What do you think of Texas Representative Jasmine Crockett?
Oh wow. Back in the day, I know that elders, perhaps such as yourself, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but there was this notion by many of our elders that whenever Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, whenever a camera was rolling, that's when they kind of appeared. And most of the pictures that I see of this sister, I'm just going to be very blunt and honest, and I don't mean to offend anybody. From an cursory kind of outsider's point of view, it looks like she's operating out of a wounded masculine perspective.
Yeah.
And as we find feminism has pushed a lot of our women to the forefront. And I don't know her family status. I don't know if she's married. I don't know if she has children, but it seems like she's operating out of a wounded masculine perspective. And there is this kind of this I don't know that there's much inner peace inside. And I don't want to preach, but if we really study our African systems of spirituality and the wisdom teachings of our ancestors, to maintain this calm, cool, collected, and in self-control, self-mastered, self-regulated, self-controlled disposition, that is the height of being a human being. And so the opposite of that is emotionalism. This out of control, warlike, untempered, unprudent, just kind of wild emotioned mentality. And unfortunately, that is what I see so many, specifically of our sisters in politics, embracing.
I think you are absolutely on point. I have been in the middle with Jasmine Crockett. On one hand, like Cynthia McKinney,
Yes.
who is 25 years before Jasmine Crockett.
Yes.
I think she is an eloquent spokesperson for her position.
Yes.
But to me, it is a position that increasingly it is only hostile to others. Others do more with it than what we get out of it. She's not offering us real, tangible solutions in so many cases to the real problems that we have. And then, of course, because of liberalism and feminism, there are certain positions that they will put forward that I absolutely disagree with.
Right.
So the news headline I'm looking at right now is hurts my heart, quote unquote. Jasmine Crockett pained that only 2 Caucasians voted against the Kirk resolution. I think this needs to be, this resolution and the whole Charlie Kirk thing, we need to step back and let the whites teams fight it out. And I don't think she's doing herself or our people or anyone who signs on to what she says, I don't think she's doing us any favors. I don't think she's doing us any favors. Any thought, or shall we just close it there?
No, I do have I think what I think is an important thought, and I believe I've mentioned it before. I see this threefold schism. You have,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to specifically stick with our people in the U.S. You have African Americans, quote unquote, who are full-blown patriots. They think of themselves as full-blooded Americans, and they are that faction is just, they bleed red, white, and blue. Okay.
Mm.
Then on the other side, you have let's say Pan-Africans or African-centered African Americans, quote unquote, who we understand that that we were captured as prisoners of war from our
Mm-hmm.
motherland continent of Africa. We were trafficked to this country and throughout the world, and that this is not our true home, and we are seeking to build bridges back to our motherland continent. But somewhere in the middle between those two, Baba, is a strange hybrid, a
Mm.
manufactured creature, which
Mm-hmm.
is, I think, respectfully, where a Jasmine Crockett may fall, which is not willing to let go of America and embrace Africa, but perpetually going to be haunted by the fact
Mm.
that they cannot be loved by enough. They cannot be loved enough by white people. And so it is
Man.
their mission in life,
Mm-hmm.
in that kind of that in-between faction. It is their mission to heal white people, which I think is a waste of time personally, and to be accepted by Eurasians, by Yorubu, and their souls will not rest until they are accepted in full, because I think, believe that Africa has nothing to offer, and so it's a very desperate position to be in. It's like, if these people don't accept us, then I'm not a human being. But we on the African-centered side understand that no, we can let go of this, because what we have is so much more of a great legacy. And yeah, that's kind of my loose statement on that, if that made any sense at all.
No, it made a lot of sense. You clarified so many points in your rant, and I do appreciate that.
Thank you, Baba.
You did a great job with that. I'm just going to let it stand. I think you said everything that needed to be said. We appreciate Jasmine Crockett for her eloquence, and we appreciate her fiery nature, but it's not what we need. It's not what we need.
No, I think using Nana Ya Asantewa as an example, she was not just a mouthpiece. She was not just a speaker. She was a doer. She got things done.
Mm-hmm.
And she advocated for the cultural resilience and resistance of our people.
That's right.
Too many of us, I think, in politics are just empty suits.
That's right.
Respectfully.
Well, let's go forward. Thank you so much for everything you brought to today's conversation, Brother Dwara, and to Baba Junius. You both do, and you did today a very good job, and that's why we have our own now. We are here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, livinginblack.com. Hey, we're out of here for today. Everybody have a black and positive day. I'm going to take on this assassination topic one more time. I'm going to go deep into it, and we're going to see, did we collect and can we share the evidence that suggests that Charlie Kirk's assassination was a state-sponsored hit? I think we can do that. Peace and prosperity to each and every one of you. And Brother Osei Kamau is in the house. He says that last statement was so correct. He agrees with me that you speak very, very highly on this topic. Thank you, Brother Dwara. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you.
Peace and prosperity.
Peace, family.